It's the second day of September 2022. Welcome to the Day Weather Podcast, brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Cowboy State Daily has more Wyoming news information than any other news organization in the state. Check out their Facebook page. Go to cowboystatedaily.com. Well, folks, as we head into this upcoming Labor Day weekend, this is good news for most of you. If you're going to be camping, boating, heading into the great outdoors, going to a football game, maybe just staying at home, well, it's going to be basically an extension of summer with very warm temperatures through the middle of next week. Rock bottom relative humidities are really dropping. So when you get these low humidities, it's easier to get warm during the day. Conversely, it's easier to get cooler at night. So you get these cool nights, but really warm days. With the dropping humidity, that's going to really cause increasing fire danger across the west. We've got to be kind of careful here in the coming weeks with the fire season. I hope it doesn't start to pick up. So be careful out there, because for a good 6 days here, there's really no significant precipitation coming. One thing we have experienced during the summer season with the monsoonal moisture in the region is that humidities have stayed up pretty high for most of the summer season. It's one reason why the nights have been so warm this summer, is that extra humidity in the air, but we're losing that humidity like we normally do this time of year. We still have a pattern change coming late next week. Devil's in the details. There's a lot of disagreement and some question marks. Not only do we have this potential cold front coming in around Friday and Saturday, but there's a new wrinkle. There's a hurricane forming in the eastern Pacific Ocean that's going to go up along the west coast of Mexico. Could we have hurricane impacts in parts of the western United States with what will be left of that hurricane sometime next week? Don't know, but I tell you, it's really worth watching. Sometimes it does happen. So while there's very little going on over the next 5 to 7 days here, after that, the weather gets a lot more interesting. Thanks for you folks who put YouTube comments or sent me an email about whether or not animals know something that we don't. If anybody has any extra input, put it in the comment section. Satellite shows the two things I wanted to talk about: the dry air, the very dry air that covers the western United States from California and the eastern Pacific out here into the high plains and Rockies. This little bit of moisture here is associated with a little bit of a weak cool front, but it's just not going to be enough to generate any moisture. Now, see down here, see the blue and the green and the red? Well, this is the new Hurricane Javier that's forming in the eastern Pacific right now. See all this moisture right here? Well, there's another tropical wave forming right here, and you can see it when we take a look at the hurricane activity. We finally have a hurricane in the Atlantic. Up in the North Atlantic, Danielle has formed and has just now become a hurricane, and we've got other waves. This one needs to be watched later on. So finally the tropics are picking up. Danielle is just probably likely going to meander in the north central Atlantic and not do much other than make for a pretty satellite photo. Here in the Pacific, though, this is Javier. And this system, as we go forward, is likely going to go like this as it forms, and it's going to be moving northward. Why will it be moving northward? Well, here's the hurricane right here. Hurricanes are attracted to other areas of low pressure, the nearest areas of low pressure. So here we are today with this big high over the Intermountain West, but we've got this big low up here in the Gulf of Alaska and a smaller one right here. So the tendency for this hurricane is wanting to gravitate northward towards those areas. And you can see this is by Saturday, the moisture from the system going up into western Mexico here, while dry air covers the Rockies. And what could happen, this is by next Wednesday. By next Wednesday, we still have the high here. It strengthens, this hurricane does. It's right off the Baja of California. But you see this connection right here to this trough. This is the front that's due late next week. So we've got two systems coming at us from different angles. This cool front late next week and what will be left of that hurricane in the eastern Pacific going into Mexico and maybe parts of the desert Southwest by the end of next week. Again, it's a question mark, but it is something that does bear watching. If there's going to be the remnants of a hurricane affecting the western United States, it's going to be an eastern Pacific hurricane, not a Gulf of Mexico or Atlantic hurricane, but an eastern Pacific one. So while there's very little going on now and very little happening for the next 6 days, Well, we might finally get into some interesting weather late next week. And there you can see, this is by next Wednesday. There's a connection now of that moisture going all the way up to that low and that trough coming into the Pacific Northwest late next week. The latest drought monitor, pretty amazing. Look at Texas. The green and the darker green shows where drought conditions have changed status. So Texas is going into a complete 180 from hot, dry, droughty conditions all summer now to just really wet and likely staying that way for a little bit longer in the last week. The remnants of that monsoon flow helping out western Colorado as well. Have yourself a great weekend. See you on Tuesday.